had a friend named Walter. He worked as a plumber for over 40 years, never showed off, never talked about money. Most people thought he lived a simple, even modest life. But when he turned 67, Walter bought a small house by the lake, retired early, and never worried about bills again. No stress, no debt, just quiet freedom. That got me thinking. I've met folks like Walter over the years, folks who never bragged, never chased the spotlight, but somehow ended up steady, peaceful, even quietly wealthy. Not lottery winners, not stock market gamblers, just ordinary people who lived a certain way. Now that I'm 70, I've started to see a pattern. 7 simple habits they all had in common. Habits that don't make headlines, but over time, they change your life. So today, I want to share those 7 habits with you. Not to impress you, but to remind you that wealth can be quiet, gentle, and lasting if you live with intention. Let's begin. Habit 1. Live below your means. I wish someone had told me earlier that living below your means is not about being cheap. It's about buying your freedom. Back when I was working full-time, I always thought that earning more meant I could spend more. Got a raise? Great. Time for a better car, a bigger house, maybe a little vacation I couldn't really afford. And I wasn't alone. That's how most of my friends lived too. We thought success meant showing that we were doing well. The problem was, the more we earned, the more we owed, and the more we stressed. It wasn't until I hit my 60s that I finally saw what the quietly wealthy folks had been doing all along. They didn't buy everything they could afford. In fact, they often bought far less. One guy I knew, Jim, worked as an electrician, drove the same truck for 20 years, wore simple clothes, took his lunch to work every day, never looked flashy. But when he retired, he owned his home, had no debt, and more than enough savings to live comfortably. Here's the truth no one tells you when you're younger. It's not what you earn that determines your wealth. It's what you keep. If you make $80,000 a year and spend $79,000, you're one emergency away from stress. But if you make $50,000 and spend $40,000, you're not only surviving, you're building breathing room, safety, and peace. Living below your means is a quiet habit. No one sees it. No one compliments you on it. But over time, it builds a foundation that holds strong when everything else shakes. Now that I'm retired, I see how important that breathing room really is. Not just financially, but mentally. I don't worry about every bill. I don't lose sleep over the market. I don't have to say yes to every offer or no to things I enjoy. If I could go back to my 40s or even 50s, I would have cut back just a little. Not to punish myself, not to live in scarcity, but to make room. Room for the life I have now. Start small. Look at where your money is going. Cancel one thing you don't use. Cook one more meal at home each week. Buy quality, not quantity. Keep your car longer. Wear what's already in your closet. These little decisions might feel invisible today, but they are the exact steps that quietly wealthy retirees took to build a life that doesn't depend on stress. The earlier you start, the lighter your future becomes. Living below your means is not just about money. It's about dignity. It's about control. And most importantly, it's about peace of mind, the kind that no price tag can offer. Habit 2. Automate your savings. So you don't have to think about it. This is one I wish I had understood in my 30s, maybe even sooner. Saving money always felt like a decision I had to make every month, and when life got busy, or stressful or expensive, I'd skip it. I told myself I'd save next month or when things calm down. But you know how life is. Things never really calm down. Looking back, I realize now that the people who ended up quietly wealthy weren't necessarily more disciplined than the rest of us. They were just a little smarter with their systems. They didn't wait to decide whether or not to save. They made saving automatic. They set up their paycheck to move a small amount, maybe $50 or $100, straight into a separate savings account or a retirement fund before they even saw it. And they didn't touch it. When you automate your savings, you protect yourself from your own emotions. Because let's be honest, money decisions can be emotional. When you're tired or stressed or tempted by something shiny, it's easy to talk yourself out of saving. But if it's automatic, it just happens. Like paying a bill. Except this time, you're paying your future self. It doesn't have to be a big number. $100 a month over 30 years with steady growth can turn into well over 100,000. And more than the number, it's about the habit. When saving becomes part of your system, not a choice you have to make every time, it becomes effortless. For a long time, I thought I needed to make more money to feel safe. But the truth is, what I needed was to keep more of what I already had. And automation made that possible. If you're still working, even part-time, set up automatic transfers. If you're retired, you can still automate how you set aside for yearly expenses, gift giving, travel, anything that matters to you. The less you have to manually manage, the more mental space you gain. And with that space comes peace. The quietly wealthy don't necessarily make more. They just make fewer emotional money decisions. They let smart systems do the heavy lifting. And here's the beauty of it. Once you set it up, you don't have to think about it. You can go live your life. You can spend without guilt, knowing your future is already being funded quietly in the background. It's not glamorous. No one sees it. But trust me, this one habit, done consistently, is one of the biggest secrets to a stress-free retirement. Habit 3. Avoid debt like it's poison. If I could teach just one financial lesson to my younger self, or to my children, or to anyone who wants to retire in peace, it would be this: stay away from debt as far as you can, for as long as you can. I spent years believing debt was just part of life. A car loan here, a credit card there, a mortgage that felt like it would never end. Everyone around me was doing the same. I thought it was normal. I thought it was manageable. But what I did not realize was that debt is not just numbers on a page. It is pressure. It is stress. It is a slow leak in your sense of freedom. When you are in debt, someone else owns a piece of your time. You owe hours of your life, future hours you have not even lived yet, to someone else. That realization hit me hard one day when I calculated how much interest I had paid over the years. It was not just money I lost. It was moments, opportunities, options. The quietly wealthy retirees I know avoided debt like it was poison. They saved up before buying. They drove older cars. They skipped unnecessary upgrades. Not because they were cheap, but because they valued control over convenience. They wanted to own their choices, not owe for them. I knew a man named Earl, retired military, lived a quiet life. He paid cash for everything. No car payments, no credit card debt, not even store financing. I once asked him how he did it. He said, "If I cannot afford it twice, I do not buy it once. That stuck with me. Debt does not just affect your wallet, it affects your peace of mind. I remember nights I could not sleep, thinking about bills, minimum payments, and how to stretch what little I had left. It takes a toll. And that toll gets heavier as you get older. When you are young, you think you can handle it, that you have time to pay it off. But time moves fast, and interest is not patient. It grows quietly in the background, just like mold in a damp corner. Left unchecked, it eats away at everything. I am not saying never take a loan. Sometimes a mortgage makes sense, but even then, do it wisely. Live in a home that fits your needs, not your ego. Buy what brings you peace, not pride. One of the best things I ever did was paying off every last debt before I turned 65. The moment that final payment cleared, it felt like a weight lifted off my chest. That is when I truly started to feel retired, not just on paper, but in spirit. If you are carrying debt now, do not panic. Start where you are. Make a plan. Pay more than the minimum. Cut back for a season. Sell what no longer serves you. Every dollar you free up from debt is a dollar that belongs to you again. Avoiding debt is not flashy. No one will clap for you. But it is one of the clearest paths to quiet wealth. The kind that lets you wake up without worry and sleep without fear. Habit 4. Invest early and then leave it alone. I used to think investing was something only wealthy people did. People in suits with big salaries and financial advisors. I thought it was risky, complicated, and maybe even a little bit like gambling. So I stayed away. I told myself I was being careful, being responsible, but what I was really doing was missing out. It was not until much later in life that I began to see how the quietly wealthy approached investing. And it surprised me. They were not chasing trends. They were not day trading or picking stocks based on tips from the news. In fact, most of them could not even tell you what the market was doing this week. And they were better off because of it. Here's what they did. They started early, invested consistently, and left their money alone. Simple as that. I remember one conversation with a friend who was a retired librarian. She told me she put a small amount into a retirement fund every month, starting in her 30s. She never stopped, never increased it by much. She just kept going. She did not watch the market. She did not panic during downturns. And by the time she retired, she had enough to live comfortably, travel modestly, and even help her grandkids with college. The key word here is compound. Compound growth is like a snowball. Slow at first, then suddenly powerful. But only if you let it roll long enough. The earlier you start, the less money you need to put in. The later you start, the more you have to catch up, and that pressure can be overwhelming. Looking back, I realize I was so focused on saving safely, I missed the bigger picture. A savings account is like a parked car. It is safe, but it does not go anywhere. Investing, on the other hand, is what gets you moving forward. Slowly? Yes, but steadily. And just as important as starting is leaving it alone. That was my second mistake. The few times I did invest when I was younger, I got nervous. I pulled money out when things dipped. I tried to time the market. And it cost me. The quietly wealthy do not try to outsmart the market. They respect it. They give it time. And they trust that over decades, not days, their patience will pay off. If you are still working, start now. Even if it is small, $50 a month. 100 if you can. Put it into a broad low-fee index fund and let it sit. If you are already retired, it is not too late to let your money grow a little more wisely, or to teach someone younger in your life to start early. Investing is not a race. It is not a trick. It is not a way to get rich quick. It is a habit of trust in time, in discipline, and in the future. The people who are quietly wealthy did not win the lottery. They just gave their money a job and left it to work in peace. Habit 5. Keep life simple so you can focus on what matters. There was a time when I thought more was better. More clothes, more tools, more gadgets around the house. I thought having a full garage and a packed calendar meant I was living a full life. But now that I am 70, I see it differently. The truth is, the people I have met who seem truly wealthy in retirement, not just in their bank accounts, but in their hearts, live with less. Not because they have to, but because they choose to. They have learned that when life is cluttered, the mind is cluttered too. Keeping life simple is not about being a minimalist or living out of a suitcase. It is about clearing space, physical, mental, emotional, for what actually matters. I remember the first time I cleaned out my garage after I retired. It took me an entire weekend. I found boxes I had not opened in over 20 years. Old electronics, broken tools, papers I no longer needed. And as I let go of each thing, something strange happened. I felt lighter, not just in my home, but in my mind. It made me realize how much of my energy had been spent managing stuff, cleaning it, storing it, fixing it, worrying about it. And the worst part? Most of it never added any real joy to my life. The quietly wealthy do not chase status. They chase clarity. Their homes are calm. Their routines are simple. They know what matters. And they focus on that. One friend of mine downsized from a 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom cottage after his kids moved out. At first, he was nervous, but later he told me it was the best decision he ever made. Fewer rooms meant fewer worries, lower bills, less to clean, and more time to sit by the window with a cup of coffee and just be. That kind of peace is wealth. Keeping life simple also means saying no more often. No to activities that drain you. No to people who always bring drama. No to chasing after the next thing, the next trend, the next upgrade. When you simplify, you create space for joy, for people you love, for moments you will actually remember. If you look around and feel like life is too loud, too fast, too full, take that as a sign. Start small. Clean out one drawer. Cancel one unnecessary subscription. Say no to one commitment that no longer serves you. Little by little, you will feel the fog lift. You will have room to think, to breathe, to feel present again. The quietly wealthy do not live big. They live clear. They are not trying to impress anyone. They are just trying to live well. And they know that simple often means better. Habit 6. Protect your health like your richest asset. When you are young, you think your most valuable asset is your income or your house, maybe your retirement account. But when you reach my age, you realize your greatest wealth is your health. No amount of money can buy back a body that has been neglected for too long. And while we all face health issues eventually, the people I have known who lived their retirement years with strength, peace, and freedom all had one thing in common. They protected their health early, quietly, and seriously. I used to think being healthy meant looking fit or going to the gym. I thought it was about appearance. But now I know it is about energy, about freedom, about waking up without pain, being able to walk without help, and doing small things without feeling tired. Some of the wealthiest retirees I have met walk every day, not for speed, not to break records, but just to move. 10, 20, maybe 30 minutes. They drink water first thing in the morning. They eat real food. They go to bed early. They get their checkups, take their medicine, and listen to their bodies. It is not complicated, but it is consistent. I had a neighbor named Carl. He was not rich by any normal definition, lived on a modest pension, drove a beat-up sedan, but every day at 6 a.m., he walked around the block, rain or shine. In his late 70s, he was still mowing his own lawn, carrying his groceries, and laughing with his grandkids. He did not talk much about health. He just lived it. And the peace it gave him, that is real wealth. The problem is, many of us wait too long. I did. I worked long hours, skipped meals, stayed up late, sat too much, and told myself I would take care of myself later. But later comes fast, and it does not always come kindly. If I could go back, I would take that walk every morning. I would stretch, I would drink more water, eat fewer packaged foods, and take my stress seriously. Because stress eats at the body in ways you do not see until it is too late. Protecting your health is not just about living longer. It is about living better. It means you can enjoy retirement, travel, play with your grandkids, and feel steady in your own skin. Even now, it is not too late. Start small. One healthy habit, one better choice today. You do not have to run marathons. Just honor your body for carrying you this far. Quiet wealth is not just financial. It is physical. It is waking up with strength, going to bed with rest, and spending your days in a body that feels like home, not a burden. Habit 7. Never stop learning, especially after 60. When I was younger, I believed learning was something you finished. You went to school, maybe college, learned a trade, or built a career. And then you worked. After retirement, that was the time to rest, slow down, maybe just coast. But here is what I have discovered. The quietly wealthy, the people who age with grace, purpose, and a spark in their eyes, never stopped learning. Not at 60, not at 70, sometimes not even at 80. They read books. They took classes. They listened more than they spoke. They stayed curious. They asked questions. And they looked at every stage of life, even retirement, as a chance to grow. Learning keeps the mind sharp, but more importantly, it keeps the heart young. I once met a man in his late 70s who was learning how to paint, not because he wanted to sell his work, but because he had never tried before. Another friend of mine took up gardening in her 60s and said, "Every time something grows, I feel like I do too." For me, I started reading more after I turned 65, not just the news, but real books, stories, memoirs, even history. And then I discovered audiobooks and podcasts. Suddenly, I was walking in the morning and learning at the same time, and something changed in me. I felt more alive. I had more to talk about with my kids, my neighbors, even strangers at the coffee shop. The quietly wealthy do not just manage money well. They manage their attention. They choose to feed their minds instead of letting them drift. They know that a day without learning is a day you slowly disconnect from the world, from others, and from yourself. And learning does not mean going back to school. It can be as simple as asking your grandchild to show you how to use an app, or watching a documentary instead of a rerun, or trying a recipe from another country. It is about saying, I still have more to discover, even now, especially now. You see, the richest retirees I know are not the ones with the biggest houses or the fanciest vacations. They are the ones who still see life as a gift, still unwrap it day by day with wonder. And that wonder, that curiosity, it keeps the soul moving forward even when the body slows down. So if you want to stay truly wealthy in retirement, feed your mind, learn something new, keep your eyes open, ask why and ask how, and most importantly, ask, what else is possible for me, even now? Because you are not done, and neither is life. Wealth you don't have to prove. If you have listened this far, I want to thank you. Not just for your time, but for your attention. Because in today's world, quiet lessons like these are easy to overlook. You see, wealth is not always loud. It is not always in big houses or shiny cars. Sometimes it is in the peace you feel when you wake up without debt. Sometimes it is in the joy of a morning walk or the strength to say no to things that no longer serve you. The people I have admired most in retirement did not talk much about money. They just lived well. They were steady, humble, kind. They kept their lives simple, their habits consistent, and their hearts open to learning. And you know what? That was enough. If there's one thing I hope you take from this, it is that it is never too late to begin. You can start today. With one habit, one small shift, one new decision made with your future self in mind. You do not need to brag. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. Let your peace speak for itself. Let your life be the quiet kind of wealthy, the kind that lasts. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself. And remember, sometimes the richest lives are the ones no one sees coming.